On the 8th of March 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370 with 239 passengers takes off from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The plane flies and then disappears forever. The world has found that 46 countries are involved in the search operation. More than $200 million is spent on the search operation. Satellites, ships, and submarines are used year after year, but the plane is never found. But today I am not telling you the story of that plane. I am telling you why that plane was not found. Because the place where the plane fell is part of the Indian Ocean. This was the time when NASA had such a map that no random corner of Mars was hidden. Literally, if this plane had crashed on Mars, it would have been found because Mars is better mapped as compared to our own sea. So the question is, what is under the sea and why hasn't man reached there yet? Most of the people who talk about this topic make a mistake in their videos. They say that there is nothing under the sea. There is an empty place like a parking lot where there is pressure, where there is darkness, where the sunlight does not reach. And this is wrong. Absolutely wrong. The world's longest mountain range is under the sea, 65,000 kilometers long. That is, if you add the Himalayas, Andes, Rockies, all of them, they still fall short of it. The world's largest volcanoes are here, caves are here, even jungles are present. It is surprising that jungles are present under the sea, but those jungles are present where creatures live. Without sunlight, life is abundant. Life goes on and they get their energy from the bottom of the earth. And in 2023, it was found that there is another sealed ecosystem under an ecosystem that no one has ever seen. So the question is not whether there is something else under the sea or not. The question is, when was it and why did man find out only by 2023? What is the story? Let's understand. Now imagine for a minute that you are sitting on a submersible and you are on the surface and now you are going under the water, under the sea. So what will happen? You will go up to 200 meters first, and up to 200 meters there is sunlight up to here. Everyone knows up to here. There is a coral reef, there are fish. All that you see on National Geographic is familiar and you are comfortable up to here. But as soon as you try to go down from it, up to 1000 meters, where will you reach? The place you reach is called the twilight zone. That is, the sunlight is completely over, the darkness begins, the pressure begins to increase. But life is still there. Giant squids live here. Those giant squids that man has never seen before. The first giant squid that man saw in this world was seen in 2004. Man has never seen giant squids before. These giant squids are the second largest invertebrate in the world. 14 meters long, eyes like the size of a football. And before 2004, you don't get to see any picture or footage of it. A few giant squids that came to the shore as dead bodies, the world only saw them. And the world considered it a sea monster. That is, it can be argued that they are sea monsters. But maybe we were putting them in the wrong category. Then as you go further down from 1000 meters, you reach the abyssal plains up to 4000 meters. That is the world's largest land. Below this is the Mariana Trench, that is the Challenger Deep, and its depth is 10,984 meters. That is, the height of Mount Everest is 8,848 meters. So even if you try to put Mount Everest upside down in the Challenger Deep, it will not come to the surface. That is, the trench will be 2 kilometers higher than that. Now you have to understand one thing here. What happens here? Here the pressure is 1071 times higher than sea level and the temperature reaches 1 to 4 Celsius. Sunlight is zero. There is darkness forever and life is present here too. In 2024, a Chinese submersible, Fendoza, has done 23 dives in the Mariana Trench. That is at a depth of 31,000 feet. That is right next to the Challenger Deep. And they have explored the colonies of tube worms and mollusks. There are so many colonies that man has gone so far to explore that no man has ever gone so deep in history. And the interesting thing is that we don't even know the name of that man. In 1977, Alvin's submersible went down near Galapagos. Scientists went inside, it was dark, there was pressure and there was complete silence. Then they saw that there was a mountain. But that mountain was like a chimney, that is, superheated water was boiling at 400 degrees Celsius. Minerals, sulfur, fire, and there was a jungle around that fire. Can you really imagine a jungle underwater around the fire? You must remember that I had read in school that photosynthesis is needed for life. Sunlight is needed, plants are needed, food chain is needed. You will remember all these rules very well. But here, life has reversed the rules. There are bacteria there that use chemical energy, that is sulfur, minerals, and produce their own food from it. That is, there is no sun, and then there are 6-foot long tube worms on that bacteria. There are eyeless shrimps whose eyes have never developed due to pressure. There are giant crabs. There is a whole food chain running from the heat coming out of the ground without the sun. In 1977, the official position of science was that the deep ocean is a barren wasteland. There is nothing there. And this was not said by a professor. It was a consensus. It was taught in textbooks. This question was asked in the exam. Then in 1977, a submersible went down and the whole consensus remained unchanged forever. This one dive proved the formula of science wrong, and the scientists themselves said that we were wrong. That moment is probably one of the most important moments in the history of science, and no one noticed it. You will remember that at the beginning of this video, I told you that there are metallic rocks in the abyssal plains, that is, polymetallic nodules. And another phenomenon that in 2024, the textbooks of science have changed. Why and how? Now let's understand this phenomena. In 2012, scientists have detected oxygen at a depth of 4,000 meters on the floor of the Pacific Ocean. In the dark, zero sunlight, zero photosynthesis, but oxygen is still present. Those nodules, those metallic rocks that are lying there, have been creating electrochemical reactions for centuries, for thousands of years. And that reaction is producing oxygen only from rocks, only from chemistry, without the help of anything. Scientists and researchers have named this thing dark oxygen. In 1950, scientists wrote in the textbooks that oxygen comes only from photosynthesis, from plants, from sunlight. And this became rule number 1. This concept has been taught in every school, in every exam for the past 174 years. It has been sold to the world. But in 2024, the bed of the sea, the floor of the sea changed this rule of science forever. That rock was working for 174 years. No one asked, no one noticed, and life was going on without the permission of the scientists. Now, what you have to understand here is that what mistake do we make today with the help of science? We talk about noting the habit of Allah. Something of Allah can be a habit. It is not His need or His compulsion. Now, what is important for you to understand here is that if oxygen is being produced underwater without anything, without photosynthesis, then what are we trying to do? What are we trying to know? And here science fails, and the world that worships scientism today tries to sell you this wrong concept. What does science want to do? It tries to note the habit of Allah, that if we open the tap, will water come? And if water comes from opening the tap, then they make a rule that water comes from opening the tap. They forget that water comes from opening the tap, because Allah wants water to come from opening the tap. So the day water does not come from opening the tap, the day I light a match and there will be no fire, that day Allah does not want that work to be done. Then the formula will fail. And here I remember Imam Ghazali, who said such a beautiful thing, that something of Allah can be a habit, but the habit of Allah is not the compulsion or need of Allah. It is the will of Allah to produce oxygen underwater in such a dark place without photosynthesis, without sunlight. And this is the demand of faith. Now, one last thing that most people miss: Seabed 20, an international project whose goal is to map the entire ocean floor under the sea by 20. And today's date is 25% complete, and this target will be 100% by 2030. That is, we will see the entire ocean floor mapped for the first time in our lifetime. And every time there is a mapping dive, new things come up. In 2023, in a mapping dive, a seamount was found near the coast of California, which had never been mapped before. That is, an entire mountain that was in the ocean. Unknown, it was there, but no one knew it. And now the question that is the crux of this whole video is that we are in 2026 and James Webb's telescope can see 13 billion light years away today. Rovers are present on Mars. AI is present, which even makes you a poet and sees what is happening 75% below the water on our own land. We don't know if it is blank or not. Why? Because there are stars in space. There is darkness in the ocean. Space seems exciting. The ocean seems boring. But this is a choice, this is a matter of priority. In 1977, the first consensus was that there is nothing in the deep ocean. Then the first dive happens in 1977, and it turns out that 300 new species have been discovered in one dive. So think that 75% is blank, about which we do not know anything. What will happen? Because every time a person has gone down, has gone into the water, reality has always left our imagination behind. And now an important thing is that the dark oxygen that has been discovered, if oxygen can only be made from chemistry underwater in the dark, then it is not just a scientific fact. This is also a hint that we learn the rules of life in the universe from the rules of our own land, and we implement those rules on our life. But all those rules that we bow down to in science, all those rules are incomplete. Those who are confident about the rules of life have not yet reached Challenger Deep. Allah Almighty has said that you have been given a little of knowledge. We do not know anything about our world, 75% of the earth, and yet we question the creation of our Creator. Even after knowing so much, if someone says this and thinks that this earth, this universe, this world was only possible by an accident, then their minds are doubtful.